Every woman should feel beautiful, feel beautiful, feel beautiful, feel beautiful. Every woman should feel beautiful, feel beautiful, feel beautiful, feel beautiful.
All right, like I said from last episode, we did a model call and we made sure we chose different age groups. And what I noticed with the young girls, well, the teens, they felt more beautiful when they had either makeup on, they were going to prom or homecoming of some sort.
A moment I felt most beautiful is when I got my makeup done for homecoming last year.
Prom night. I looked like a princess, I had a beautiful dress, and it was the best time of my life.
Is when I have makeup on, because I feel like it's a really good enhancement to my beauty, and it's a really nice accessory to have on.
The moment I felt most beautiful was at prom, just the way everyone looked at me and the compliments I got.
While I noticed with the older women, or should I say seasoned women, and let me just say I'm part of that seasoned group, so I don't want to get in trouble with nobody, but they felt most beautiful when they whether accomplished something or they were affirmed by somebody who they loved.
About 2 years ago on my birthday, he just made me feel like the most beautiful person in the world.
A moment I felt most beautiful was I'm performing on stage doing poetry.
I don't believe it's a coincidence that the younger women felt more beautiful because of their outward appearance, while the more older women, or should I say seasoned women, felt more beautiful because of their social relationships or their accomplishments. As I mentioned in my intro video, I have things that happened in my childhood that affected me far as having insecurities and actually made me have struggles as an adult. So what I wanted to do is sit down with Dr. Jacqueline Kennard, who is a psychologist, and I wanted to just see from her experience and her expertise, what does she see in some people's childhood that really affect them now. Now, what I will say is I was a little nervous, sitting down with her, so I really had to ease into this conversation. It's actually even hard for me to do this intro right now, so let's go. So I'm going to just give you a little bit about myself. I am the baby of... My mother had 3 daughters. She raises. My oldest sister is 15 years older than me. My other sister is 13 years older than me. So about time I came along, everybody was on the way out the door. So, me and my mother, it was just me and her. Me and her are very close. And she raised me by herself. And my father, he really was not there at all. And I found myself, in my 30s, dealing with like this little girl on the inside who was still hurt because of this relationship that I wanted with my father that I never had. I remember being a young girl and, not being confident as far as I didn't feel attractive. I remember I didn't want to look in the mirror because I would see like a distorted image of myself. I just remember really not feeling that great about myself. And I even saw in the relationships that I had with men that since I did not feel good about myself, and my father, I guess you can say he, in some sense, I felt worthless. Like, well, I wasn't worth him staying around, I guess you could say I kind of blame myself for him not being there. But in some cases, I feel like I gave myself away because I didn't find myself of any value. And one of the things that I don't understand is, a lot of times we, as African American people, we don't take people's feelings seriously. A person can tell you that they don't feel good about themselves or they're struggling with depression. And a lot of times people want to say, hey, let's just give it to the Lord and be done with it. But our feelings really play a big part in our lives. Our feelings could lead to physical, emotional pain. And as we see now, a lot of suicide among our young people. And, you know, the reality of it is if you were diagnosed with cancer, you're not going to just go in front of the church and pray about, pray this cancer away. Not saying that we don't need the Lord, but you're going to seek the help of an oncologist and get some type of treatment, So I guess I just don't understand, why do we not seek help for our feelings when our feelings can really stunt our growth, our life, and hurt relationships with other people. Dr. Kennard, I'm glad to be here with you today. So maybe you can help shed some light on some things you've noticed being in the field, some of the things that may affect a young woman or a lady's self-esteem or self-confidence.
Good topic. There are many, many things that can affect a young woman and an adult woman's self-confidence. Many times when young women come in for counseling, they come in because maybe they have gone to their family doctor for a physical checkup or for something that's going on medically. And when they come to a psychologist and you ask, well, how did you happen to come? She may say something like, well, I went in to see my family doctor, and she asked me one question, and suddenly I started crying and I couldn't stop. And she doesn't realize when she goes in to see the doctor that there's even anything wrong, until suddenly she's crying and she can't stop. And when she comes in for counseling, she's able to realize that there are many, many things that have made her feel down, or that have made her not feel good about herself, or that make her feel scared, or that make her feel worried. But as our other stereotype of us as black women is, but black women are strong. So you don't give in to that. You don't pay attention to that. And so not until that right moment or that right situation, when all of your defenses are down, do you recognize that I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling good about me. I'm not feeling good about where I'm headed. And I'm very, very scared, and I feel extremely alone. But my girlfriends and my family, they think I'm cool. They come to me. I'm the go-to girl. Everybody comes to me. But what they have totally ignored is that they're not feeling good. And sometimes it's from something that's happening today. And sometimes as they look back over their lives, it's something that was there from as long as they can remember, about how they felt about themselves physically, how they felt about themselves in terms of their competence. And sometimes the most overachieving, take charge girl in the family may also be the one who was really put down in that family. So you go to a funeral and you see one person in the family who's all falling apart. Everybody's all over, they're helping that person out. They just can't cope. But what about the girl who does cope? Who comforts her? No one comes to her. No one supports her. So that's the person in the family very often who is suffering the most inside about her self-esteem, her self-confidence, because everybody thinks that she's together. She doesn't need to be taken care of. And sometimes there may be a little family secret around that one girl in the family who's so strong. Something that happened to her that nobody else knew about that made her strong. Many strong African American women are not strong by choice. They're strong by having to be that way. That I had to take over in my family. I had to take care of those under me. Or that because I had this horrible secret, I couldn't tell anybody. And as I got older, I felt guilty about that. So I started doing other things to compensate for that, to make up for feeling badly that I had sex way too early, or that I had sex with someone I never should have had sex with, my stepfather, my uncle. So she learns to compensate by, I'll overachieve. I'll do my very best. And I show this glowing person on the outside, but I feel very badly because if someone knew the inside, they may think that I'm not such a worthy person. So many times there are secrets that when they start to unfold, the child feels very hurt, very that they've been lied to, and they feel their confidence is shaken because they feel that the family I thought I could trust, I can't trust. I grew up thinking this person was my father. Now I realize this was my father. Why didn't he ever come forward and tell me that he was my father? Why was he living over there, maybe just a block away from me, and taking care of this other lady's kids, and he maybe even saw me sometimes and never even acknowledged me? never gave me anything, never came to a football game or never came to a choir concert that I was in. But a secret, something that was quiet and that was kept in that family, ends up perhaps forever damaging that child's life, damaging their self-confidence and their self-esteem. The other issue that very often is the stigma that we carry around even today around our skin color, around our hair, around those physical attributes, things that we should feel fine about, and yet we feel that my lips are too big. Nobody else in the family has lips this big. My color is too dark. Nobody else is as dark as I am. My hair is too kinky. No one else has hair like that. There's a psychologist who did a study back in the 40s, and it was called a doll preference. And he would just show dolls to little girls and ask them to tell which is prettier, this one or that one. And some would have a white doll, some would have a black doll. And back in the 40s, as we might expect, the predominant doll that was always chosen was the white doll is prettier. Well, they've replicated that study. Every so many years they'll replicate that study. And in this day and time, the one thing that's still the same is that the responses are still the same. In this day and time, when we may think that we're much more enlightened about being confident and being proud about our race and our culture, that still those same little girls often will say, this doll is prettier, and she happens to be the white doll. This doll is not so attractive. Or which doll would you like to have? And they'll still choose that I want the white doll, not the black doll. I have 3 nieces, and I have several girls who've been in my life from the time they were born as godchildren or just friends of people, children of friends that I know and so forth. And the things that I'm very much aware of, and much of it deliberate, but much of it's just that it's my personality, that the way that I believe I've affirmed the girls that I've known is making sure that there was time for them. And often it seems that there isn't much time. There's not enough time. And you don't always need a lot of time, but you need to designate time, and it needs to be something that kind of happens repeatedly. I watched the lady one day. I was driving along, and she had a little girl who looked like she couldn't have been any more than 3. That's their time. They're walking from wherever they were coming from to the preschool. Wonderful, rich, wonderful time. But how was it being spent? She was on her phone. The little one was trying to keep up. Her little jacket was flinging off, and she kept trying to pull her jacket up and skipping, trying to catch up with her mom, and her mom's on that phone. So all that time that was spent from wherever they started to the preschool was wonderful, rich time that could have been spent with the 2 of them, of telling her maybe how pretty that little jacket is. That's the jacket we bought, and it sure looks good on you, doesn't it? Or listening to something that her little girl was talking about. Or, even though we don't think it, sometimes gaining something from that child that even helps us a whole lot more than whoever's on the other end of that phone.
You're right.
So, but if we can sometimes just turn everything else off and really be for that child that we're with, it helps everybody. It helps the mother feel like she's got a better day starting. Because sometimes that little kid says something to you that just makes your day. Mm-hmm. Mommy, that is so pretty. Makes your day. Mm-hmm. A lot more than that may be the only person that whole day that tells you, pretty, Mommy. Yes. Pretty. And you hear something, you share something that's way more valuable for everybody involved than whatever is going on with that. All she experiences, if you're on the phone, is we're rushing. I can't get my jacket up. Mm-hmm. Mommy's not paying attention to me. We just have to rush. And all the mom is getting is whatever's going on that phone. But the better part is whatever could be happening with her, with that child. So in today's world, I think the real challenge is, can we really have uninterrupted time where we really are with one another, where we really hear, we listen, we look in each other's eyes, we hear what's being said, we touch. You touch your child's arm or you touch their hand, you're connected. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest challenge for parents and kids today.
Dr. Kennard and myself, we talked for like over an hour, and We had some really good things that we talked about that I cannot fit in this video. But what I want you all to take from this is it is so healthy to have somebody to talk to, whether you're male, female, but having that safe place to vent. And I'm not saying this for this episode. I'm saying this is part of my life. This is part of my ministry. Me and my friend Jasmine at church, we have a program for the young girls called My Sister's Keeper. And we just provide a safe place where they can talk, they can share their feelings. So again, sometimes we find ourselves stuck, and the source of that feeling or that hurt is a lot of times it comes from our childhood. Some of the things we don't talk about, we don't speak on. So I encourage you to find someone to just talk.
I was trying to hold my tears. Okay. We're going to the next part. I guess I should powder my face.
After talking to Dr. Kennard, I started to think about the relationship between me and my own father, God rest his soul, and how it impacted my life. So for next week's episode, I want to talk to two men, and these two men have two things in common. They both are married, and they both have at least one daughter. We have all heard about the absent father. I've lived it, and so many other people lived it. But I want to talk to some men who are present in their daughters' lives, and I want to know how they affirm their wives as well as their daughters. So next week is not just an episode for only you to tune in, but go get your husband, get your cousin, get your brother. Hey, if you got a boyfriend, get your boyfriend, and just tune in.
Be good to your